Have you noticed something is off in fashion? It seems like everyone is starting to feel tired of fashion. Kids of my generation aren't into runway fashion, we're into vintage, we're into Y2K, we're into alternative subcultures. Some of the best dressed people I know don't even follow the fashion weeks. If you ask them where they got their clothes, they'll tell you they thrifted it. It's clear why. Everything looks the same and we can't afford it anyways. What other options do you have? The shopping mall? Shein? All you get are poor quality clothing-shaped objects full of plastic. Not to say how it's lit our earths on fire. We're all sitting here gazing at blurry scans of old fruits or old Popeye, dreaming of the lost ages. No wonder many people have hanged up the shirt and are now into wellness or fragrances. It's incredibly obvious that something is rotten in a state of fashion. Revenues are dropping, stock prices are buckling. The big word of 2025 was the Great Fashion Reset. Breaking news, nothing fucking happened. You'll be shocked at how the designers themselves don't think everything is nice. In fact, they think the opposite. Rick Owens. They have rejected craft and poetry, and they have made it all about cynicism and calculation. 𝗖𝗵𝗍𝗀𝗃𝗀. Fashion has become a joke. It's all about money. They're not thinking about their customers. To myself, all these reactions seem distant. I wasn't interested in runway fashion. I just wanted to look good. Until one day when I went to a museum exhibition for Lee McQueen. Seeing the runway pieces from Plato's Atlantis up close, the details, these clothes actually made me feel something. Raw, primal emotions. It felt like when you were a kid and all the music you've ever heard were boring radio stations your parents put on in the car. Then one day you stumbled upon an internet forum full of interesting music in genres you never heard of. The last time we collectively felt that way was with Galliano's last show at Margiela, and judging by the overwhelmingly positive reaction, the power of good art is universal. But that spawned a question. Why do you barely ever see shows and clothes like that nowadays? And nobody in the industry likes it either. Buyers, journalists, PRs, even CEOs all have gripes to share. Natalie Ors, ex-PR director for 𝗖𝗵𝗽𝗀𝗃𝗀. I often see fashion shows and think a collection is amazing, but when I see it in the store, I lose interest. Robin Choulier, ex-head buyer. The industry is so fucked up now. It's made up of people making clothes they don't like, for people who won't buy them. It's all a vast illusion. No big company makes money from clothes anymore. They make money from their accessories, their perfumes, their makeup lines. To me, that makes the whole industry a big failure. All of this is incredibly depressing to hear from those who make fashion happen, but it's completely true. At the same time, fashion is full of naked kings who will every season proclaim so-and-so made the most exciting collection in history. All these famous people like it, and if you don't like it, you're a laggard. We need to fully understand where we are in order to move forward. So if nobody likes it, not us, not the industry, why is the system broken? Much like how the idea of enshittification explains our current experience on big platforms, smart people have come up with very powerful ideas that explain our current predicament in fashion. Adorno's culture industry explains why you barely ever hear of young independent designers, and why everything is a retro reissue. Debord Society of the Spectacle explains why fashion social media feels so performative. Baudrillard's Simulacra and Simulation explains why fakes are everywhere, and where the labubu trend is going. It's all connected by a single thread. Alright, let's get into it. Once upon a time in Wall Street, common wisdom was, do not invest in fashion. Fashion is too fickle, trends come and go, today's hottest company will soon be forgotten. And any artist will agree. Art is hard. Creativity does not come out of a vending machine on a schedule. Definitely not the foundations for a billion-dollar business. Some people have disregarded that advice. In fact, these people are now some of the richest people in the world, their fashion empires second only to the 𝗔𝗁𝗃𝗀𝗃 demi-trillionaires. To achieve this, writes prominent fashion journalist Dana Thomas in her book, Deluxe, it has sacrificed its integrity, undermined its products, tarnished its history, and hoodwinked its consumers. In order to make luxury accessible, tycoons have stripped away all that has made it special. Behind the tired veneer of accessibility and democratization is an ulterior motive. Once upon a time, fashion meant haute couture. Dresses that would take hundreds of hours to make by hand, sold one at a time to the 1%. But that will only get you so far. You can't top the 1% by selling to the 1%. You have to sell the illusion of the 1% to the 99%. The average suburban SUV driving, pumpkin spice loving, Walmart shopping American. But you can't handcraft couture dresses for every single one of them. You need something more easily consumable and cheaper to make. So you take a page from Walmart itself. You turn art and culture into a capitalist industry of consumer goods. Literally, even hiring executives from P&G and Unilever, paving over any artistic intent in the progress. That's how you get bags sold for $3,000, being made for a mere 57 bucks in an Italian Chinese sweatshop. And if they're not made in Italy, they're made in actual sweatshops in Bangladesh, then transported to Italy where the logo was printed on to qualify as made in Italy. This is what Theodor Adorno described as the culture industry. A capitalist industrial machine cranking out assembly lines of mass-reproduced culture. Clarification, Adorno is not pointing a finger at popular taste or lowbrow culture. Rather, it's about the big capitalist industry that devours both lowbrow art that comes from kids on the street and highbrow art that comes from the museums. They take the rebelliousness and defiance out of streetwear, and they take the intellectual seriousness out of fine art. Both are reduced into a graphic to be slapped on the same bag or sneaker. What they take away from you, they give back in predetermined, pre-classified stereotypes. Everything, both luxury and fast fashion, is precisely calculated and quantified through algorithms, focus groups, market studies. Whether it's quiet luxury or Y2K, there is an aesthetic, a trend for everyone at every age and income level. Adorno writes, something is provided for everyone, so no one can escape. Differences are hammered home and propagated. What once took years to form through shared ideology and kicking at the mainstream's doors now appears overnight as a mood board. Punk jackets without politics. Goth eyeliner without existential despair. Rave playlist without bodies in motion. Writes essayist Neil Thomason. There is a very good reason to why subcultural appropriation is the culture industry's weapon of choice. The culture industry is a machine rotating on the spot, rejecting anything untried as a risk. You can't draw revenue forecast charts for something you've never seen before. What ends up happening is that everything has to be a reissue or vintage reference dug up from the archives. Everything is appropriated from existing subcultures or cultures. Under the culture industry, retromania thrives, whether it's Y2K or Ivy or Western wear. Anything, as long as it's not actually new. The result? Culture today is infecting everything with sameness. All mass culture under monopoly is identical. That's one half of capitalism, production. What about the other half, demand? The culture industry has merged with advertising, making media an appendage of advertising. Product an afterthought. For years, we put all our emphasis on designing and manufacturing the product, but now we understand that the most important thing we do is market the product, says Phil Knight, founder of Nike. Within a context of manufactured sameness, image-based difference had to be manufactured along with the product, writes Naomi Klein in the book No Logo. What the capitalist culture industry realized is they can't top the 1% by selling products. They need to be selling images of their brand. Adorno thinks advertising has a more insidious effect. Advertising today is a negative principle, a blocking device. Anything which does not bear its seal of approval is economically suspect. Only those who can pay off celebrity stylists, get celebrities to sit in front row, hire entire flocks of influencers, buy out whole magazine networks, can play at the table as fashion sellers. It's said that major perfume launches will spend their entire first year's projected revenue only on advertising. Otherwise, people will not find you. You will not exist. This only works to keep the outsider out. Adorno writes, the more all-embracing the culture industry has become, the more pitilessly it has forced the outsider into either bankruptcy or a syndicate. Perhaps this is why you barely ever hear of young independent designers. They're either bankrupt or they had to get a job at Zara or a luxury conglomerate. It would be too easy to just stop here and say corporate capitalist greed is the source of all our fashion woes, And it would be incomplete. The reality is, we, the consumers, our relationship with fashion has been distorted as well.
That manufacturer has pointedly paid that movie production company to put their product in there.
What are you doing?
You don't directly associate it with advertising.
Time's up. $3 off. Give me that.
You're watching a movie.
In my video on Lemire, I mentioned why Christophe Lemire at one point had to shutter his own company and work for a big brand. Having experienced this firsthand, maybe that's why he said he wasn't comfortable with the non-stop spectacle of fashion media. He was referring to Guy Debord's 1968 book, Society of the Spectacle. The Society of the Spectacle is where our reality is drowned out by a stream of images, appearances, representation. And guess what? You can find that steady stream of images right on the screen that you're looking at. Images of influencers or celebrities holding a bag or a jar of face cream. A drama, a mythology of handsome people being driven to near ecstasy by their good fortune of possessing advertised goods or services. Just open any major fashion site during Paris Fashion Week. All you get is celebrity, and what handbag is in your hands. It's as if the clothes don't exist. The exact same was a Met Gala, an event hosted by a museum that is supposed to tell the story of fashion. Instead, nobody talks about the clothes on exhibition. It's all about which celebrity came with who, and more importantly, which name are they branded by. For the opening of Rei Kawakubo's exhibition, Rei herself did not show up to the spectacle, and it was as if nobody noticed. Nobody gave a shit about the actual exhibition, nor its artist. Or maybe you try your best to not follow celebrity fashion news. What you're left with is a non-stop stream of press releases for truly questionable collabs.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man.
To Debord, the spectacle results in the domination of society by commodities, where the perceptible world is replaced by a selection of images which is projected above it. Those images become our elevated ideal. All this is the product of advertising. But to Debord, the spectacle goes beyond just advertising. The spectacle is not a collection of images, but a social relation among people mediated by images. Think about it. Instead of relating to others directly, we now passively relate to other people through images of commodities. Parasocial relations with influencers whose entire shtick is shopping. Where did they go shop? What did they buy? Gift guides that tell you what to buy. The spectacle's domination of social life brought about an evident degradation. Human fulfillment was no longer equated with what one was, but what one possessed. We create entire hobby communities around passive consumption of these image objects. Perfumes, handbags, watches, sneakers, commodities that pile up in the back closet until we have to move. Then they are tossed out mercilessly. From being to having, and finally appearing, all having must now derive its immediate prestige and ultimate purpose from appearances. We no longer live, we aspire. At the same time, all individual reality has become social, in a sense that it is shaped by social forces. Individual reality is allowed to appear only insofar as it is not actually real. We are now living our entire lives on social media. It feels like the number of Instagram followers quantifies your value in real life. Everyone has to appeal to the same hashtags, displaying the same crop jackets, white fit jeans, matcha latte, and keychain dangling from the belt, just to exist in this social sphere. Everyone must put on a show. The show must go on. Christophe Lemire has this to say: "It seems to me that fashion is much more reactionary today than when I started out in the early 1990s. They seem to be conditioning people to become less independent, more stupid, follow the crowd, don't think for yourself." According to a senior ad executive, consumers are like roaches. You spray them and they get immune after a while. The spectacle has become more and more omnipresent as every advertisement is in competition with one another for your eyeballs. It's getting harder and harder to find fashion articles that aren't thinly veiled advertorials, online content that isn't hashtag sponsored. The ads are now competing with your sleep and with your common sense. What all of this leads to is separation. What Debord described as the alpha and omega, beginning and end of the spectacle. We are separated from knowledge of how a garment is made, priced, so we cannot judge quality or value. We are separated from the art history of fashion, so we cannot judge what is new and creative. Nobody remembers how Sonia Rykiel changed how women dressed, but everyone remembers the story of how Coco Chanel invented number 5. Like the book cover, we are pacified into a lonely crowd, wearing spectacles gazing into a screen, in a one-way relationship, gazing at celebrity or influencers, but ultimately separated from them. In the end, we are even separated from our true selves. And of course, a spectator and their money are soon separated.
What's interesting about advertising and its relationship to our health is that it's something we really don't think about very much. I mean, who would sit down and say, hey, advertising really affects my health? But it does.
It's curious how even punk and grunge, subcultures explicitly against consumers' capitalism, can be defanged and turned into novelties for capitalism. Debord called this recuperation, when radical ideas are chewed up by the culture industry and shat out the other end, as ripped jeans sold on Shein. In this spectacular world, there is no art, only merch. Eugene Rabkin and Anna Angelic wrote a seminal piece, Everything is Merch. What is merch? Think of a band tee you get at a concert. Merch's original value has never been in the physical item itself. After all, a band shirt is just a t-shirt, but in the social and cultural capital associated with it. Merch is a sign. A sign has two components, the signifier and signified. Wearing a Nirvana shirt once signified you went to their shows. Perhaps you were a fan of grunge, and that meant you held certain values about society. Perhaps, since the tee could only be bought at a show, it gained scarcity. Owning one became cool. That is a form of social capital. And there's many other forms of capital to signify, to show that you're part of the cool kids in the other corner of the cafeteria. It could be an in-joke, a meme, like a pigeon or a tomato bag, or it could be a book tote, to signal that you are capable of literacy. You can signal any capital, not just cultural or social capital, and as it turns out, the most democratic and accessible form is just signaling capital, money. A copyrighted trademark imbued with vague connotations of wealth. We brand ourselves with a logo or monogram, merch as our own price tag on the social free market. From being to having to appearing, all having must now derive its immediate prestige and its ultimate purpose from appearances. So Debord is actually hinting at Marx's idea of the commodity fetish, defined as when we mistakenly believe the social value we assign to something collectively is coming from the thing itself. When we see a sneaker or a handbag fetching astronomical prices, we believe in the exceptionality of the item itself, even when it's actually produced in Italian Chinese sweatshops and all that value is just hype. Funnily enough, Debord actually gives a very specific example of commodity fetish, when free trinkets that come with the purchase of a luxury product get traded back and forth like collectibles in their own right. How did the guy foresee all those Rick Owens tote bags and those hangers on Grailed right now? Even in Marx's age, there already was the phenomenon where the price of something was separated from reality. Marx describes two ways to value a product, use value and exchange value. Use value is exactly what it says on the tin. It's related to how something is made. You take the material cost, you add labor, and then you add a markup like how I described in my video on fashion pricing. Exchange value is completely unhinged from that. It's what the biggest idiot is willing to pay on Ticketmaster or StockX. However, when we believe it, when we mistake artificial scarcity for quality, commodity fetish, you start to see people investing in sneakers or handbags. Eventually that too will end up like the Pierre Cardin merch that your grandma owned. Today, a Pierre Cardin bag has no exchange value. Its only value is the use value from being just a bag. Because exchange value is dependent on continual advertising campaigns, not on the item itself. Adorno also has something to say about this world of merch. Use value in the reception of cultural assets, it's being replaced by exchange value. Enjoyment is giving way to connoisseurship by enhanced prestige. For consumers, the use value of art, its essence is a fetish, the social valuation which they mistake for the merit of works of art. It becomes its only use value, the only quality they enjoy. Nobody sums up the essence of commodity fetish better than esteemed sociology journal Hypebeast in a piece on Ka-Sing Leung, the creator of Labubus. Leung's work isn't merely art, It's a disruptive cultural currency. Yeah. Aside, if you're a time traveler from the future, Labubus is this trend that started in 2024, where all the cool people attach these stuffed toys to their handbags. We will explain more as we go.
Only with the newest Kodak Instamatic cameras. Pop it on. Take one. Take two. Take three. Newest Instamatic camera outfits from less than 8.
Jean Baudrillard's insight was how in our postmodern world of spectacle and merch, anything is recuperable. Grunge and punk can be recuperated into hot topic merch. Even an anti-logo can be recuperated into logo merch. In this world, the balance between the signifier and signified becomes broken. The signifier dominates the signified. The print dominates the shirt. The band tee dominates the band. Baudrillard's process of domination has 4 stages, and those 4 stages just happen to perfectly describe the progression of our current Labubu trend. In Baudrillard's first phase, the image is a faithful reflection of the original. The signifier and signified are equal, direct representation. Kassing Lang, an artist, wrote and drew the first set of picture books called the Monsters Trilogy, of which Labubu is one of the characters. In 2017, Lang created paintings representing a scene from the book with all the characters. This is the first phase, reflection. Now things are starting to get funky. The second phase is when the image starts to mask and distort the original, like when the monsters were turned into keychains, sold using loot box mechanics. The sign starts to dominate. It's no longer a pure reflection of the original characters or the original story. Once that happens, you can disfigure it for novelty, like the Mr. Krabs Labubu. This is a stage where subcultures like punk or grunge, communities with shared traditions and values, can get watered down, recuperated into a visual stereotype, a label. Like that blob of tags you see on everything on Grailed. This is the second phase, perversion. The third phase is when the image starts to mask the absence of the original. Like when every single luxury brand started to make their own fake Labubu. A fluffy toy that is not a character and is not based on any story or piece of art, but it looks like it could be. You also see this with Zara's fake band t-shirts. It's not pointing to any real band or real subculture. The signifier has sign exchange value, but the signified is fake. This is the third stage, pretension. The fourth phase is when the image bears no relation to any original at all. When the shampoo execs realize they can make it even cheaper, they start pumping out bag charms of bags, logos, monograms. There is no more story, nor character, nor the pretense of one. Where there once was an original, now there is another sign. Signs of signs, images of images, a symbolic fabrication. Like the X in algebra, an abstract representation of prestige, fame, or wealth. This is the supreme and last stage of merch. Baudrillard had a very special word for this fourth stage image, a simulacrum. The simulacrum is never that which conceals the truth. It is the truth which conceals that there is none. The simulacrum is true. Once upon a time in the age of hyped up sneakers, sneaker brands moved their manufacturing from China to Southeast Asia because, well, they could find someone they could pay even less. When they moved their production lines, there were some really atrocious QC flaws. Sneakers with glue stains, misaligned panels, or just completely messed up lace holes. Meanwhile, those original Chinese factories, who lost their contracts, they already had all the tooling and all the expertise, so guess what? They just kept on making them. Many of those pairs were flawless, and sometimes those fakes, they were actually better made than authentic pairs sold in official stores. At this point, what is real anymore? Remember the quote I had from Phil Knight earlier? We put all our emphasis on designing and manufacturing the product, but now we understand that the most important thing we do is market the product. It's the age of marketing, I've been told, says Adrian Joff, CEO of Comme des Garçons and Dover Street Market. You package something by hiding the truth of what it is. That is precisely what is wrong with the fashion business today. Marketing. It's the biggest failure of our age. It just doesn't ring true anymore. When the culture industry consumes our reality with empty signs, simulacra, we no longer live in reality. We live in what Baudrillard called hyper-reality. When we go, this t-shirt looks nice, but we don't even know there's a whole subculture behind it. When we don't know how a real wool coat is supposed to feel like, because all we know is fast fashion plastic. When we think fashion is about celebrity influencers and local merch that we can't afford. When the fake sneaker or fake handbag is as indistinguishably crappy as the original. When we have never felt emotion from a garment itself, we are separated from reality, living in this spectacle-filled hyper-reality. If this is the world we live in, what can we do?
Lives of our children who will live in the 21st century. The home computer, which allow him to progress as rapidly as his awakening mind can absorb the audio-visual lessons.
Burger King.
Top 10 fall sneakers denim.
Target haul. Boo Dubai chocolate matcha latte.
Ultimately, humans are meaning-making creatures, and fashion has always been about meaning. In an age where we are separated from the knowledge of design and construction, we cannot find meaning in the garment itself. So meaning migrates from the garment to the surface of the garment as a sign, which the culture industry gladly reproduces as merch, backed up by the advertising spectacle. This becomes a system of total domination over our social lives. The signs overtake our reality, leaving behind only a trail of simulacra. But status is not the only source of meaning. It's just the most democratic and accessible form of meaning. It's the lowest common denominator. We can all do better than that. Art, especially fashion, will always be a commodity, but according to Adorno, it is at the same time more than just a commodity. Art is an enigma, a question pointing at a reality just out of reach of our reality, a truth that is simultaneously revealed and concealed. Only this ambivalence, as Baudrillard describes it, can challenge the false transparency of the sign, dissolving both signifier and signified. Only this ambiguity of art can question the utility of use value and shatter the mirror of exchange value. That's what the best artists in fashion have been trying to do. If you look at my video on why 𝗖𝗵𝗽𝗀𝗃 is timeless, using ambivalence, both Ray and 𝗖𝗵𝗽𝗀𝗃 are resisting the process by which capitalism fetishizes art into an aesthetic, a trend, a sign, to be turned into a status symbol, pure exchange value. Of course, even 𝗖𝗵𝗽𝗀𝗃 and Ray can be recuperated into image objects, archived grails sold for no less than hype sneakers. Art itself can be recuperated into art pop, a word coined by Professor Natasha Degen in her book Merchants of Style, where culture industry commodities assume the designation and prestige of fine art. Even the concept of quality itself can be recuperated into shitty drop-shipped cashmere sweaters sold by Silicon Valley startups with big green sustainability labels. We need to turn away from these fetishized images. It's quite easy, 𝗖𝗵𝗽𝗀𝗃 says. Don't copy your friend. Don't be one of a group. Be yourself. Stay a bit monotone. Walk on our side of the street. Don't walk the mainstream of fashion. You'll be polluted by trends. We cannot ever escape the status race, but we can choose to be not consumed by it, and we can choose to walk outside its task of destruction. Instead, we can still find personal meaning in the ambivalence of art. While paintings, photography, even literature could die out, I believe fashion and music will always wake itself up. There is something primal about it. To Adorno, art is stillness in the middle of chaos, attention in the middle of distraction. We can all be a kid in a museum, gazing with awe at Plato's Atlantis for the first time. We can be moved by new music we found in the dark corners of the internet, music we've never heard before on the radio in our parents' car. And we can do the same for our clothes, even if we have to spend effort digging for it. Even if it's a strange name that will never pop up on our feed. Even if we need to learn the historical canon to form our own opinions of it. We should find meaning in fashion as art for ourselves. As an aside, I'm sorry for the very long video. There's still plenty of exceptional clothes, both in recent history and right now, and I'd like to focus my energy on those, so I put all I've got into one video. Don't expect too many videos in the future on this topic. That's it, thank you for watching, 𝗵𝗽𝗻𝗽𝗀𝗃 out.